Hello and welcome to our lesson for today. We are going to be talking about substitution and how it relates to combining like terms. We're going to be using substitution to check our combining like terms answers. Okay, so we are on page 12 in our binders. You may want a piece of scratch paper as well. So go ahead and pause the recording, grab a piece of scratch paper. Alright, so if you look, number 1 has a whole lot of boxes. In box A, it has this expression here. 3x plus the quantity 2 minus 4x. Right? And we talked last week that sometimes there's a minus sign in front of those parentheses, and then that means that we have to go ahead and distribute that negative, right, and add the opposite of everything that's inside of the parentheses. But because we have a plus sign here, we don't have to worry about anything. And our order of operations says that we need to do what's in the parentheses first, but we cannot combine a constant with a term with a variable. So then we're just going to combine our like terms. Okay, and I'm going to ignore those parentheses. So I have a term with an x variable, and I have another term with an x variable. 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so I have a negative x. Then I just have that plus 2 constant left over, so I have negative x plus 2. Now I can use substitution to show that I'm correct. In the directions, it says to use substitution where x equals 5. So every time we see an x, we're going to put a 5. But remember, a number and a variable right next to each other is multiplication. So this doesn't become 35, this is 3 times 5. So I'm going to have my expression now all with numbers, so a numerical expression, 3 times 5 plus the quantity 2 minus 4 times 5. Now I can do what's inside those parentheses first. Again, multiplication first. So 4 times 5 is 20. Okay. So I just did that step right there. And I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses. 2 minus 20 is negative 18. Now I have multiplication and I have addition, so I need to multiply first. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus negative 18 is negative 3. If I combine my like terms correctly over here, when I substitute 5 in for x, I should get this same numerical value. Okay. So again, just substituting in for the x. So because x is 5, the opposite of x, or negative x, is then negative 5. Well, negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So I did this problem correctly, and that's a way to check it. I'm going to do letter B with you as well. Letter B is similar, but slightly different. 3x plus plus the quantity, negative 2 plus 4x. Again, combining like terms, because that's a plus sign, and I have nothing in the parentheses that I can combine. I'm just going to look for my variables now. 3x plus 4x, this time is 7x, and then I have that plus a negative 2, or just minus 2 left over. Okay, and then I'm going to show that I'm right by using substitution. Again, taking out the x variables, putting in 5s. A coefficient next to a variable is multiplication. So now my expression is 3 times 5 plus the quantity negative 2 plus 4 times 5. Again, multiply first inside those parentheses. 4 times 5 is 20. Parentheses, negative 2 plus 20 is 18. I need to multiply before I add. 3 times 5 is 15, and then 15 plus 18 is 33. If I did my combining like terms correctly, I should get 33 once I substitute 5 in on this side as well. 7 times 5 minus 2, multiply first. 7 times 5 is 35, subtract the 2, and I get 33. My numbers match up, so that means I did it correctly. I would like you to try letters C and D on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and then come back to check your work. All right, so you should have, for letter C, when you combine your like terms, gotten x plus 2. When you substitute in the big long expression first with x equals 5, you simplify your parentheses first. That comes down to 22. Negative 3 times 5 is a negative 15. Add those together, you get 7. When you substitute it in the simplified version, 5 plus 2 is 7 to prove that you did it right. For letter D, again, when you simplified it, you should have gotten negative x minus 2. You'll notice that all these are super similar. Substituting in the 5, simplify your parentheses first. Negative 2 minus 20 more is negative 22. Then multiply, and then finally add to get negative 7. When you substitute 5 in the simplified version, you'll notice that we also have negative 7. Okay. I'm going to walk through letter E with you because letter E is slightly different. Letter E, instead of a plus sign in front of the parentheses, now has that minus sign. And so just like when we were doing the distributive property and we were doing that rainbow multiplication, when we were doing subtraction, we had to make sure that we were adding the opposite. Okay, you can also think of it as distributing that negative. Okay. So when you subtract a positive 3, you get negative 3. And then when you subtract a positive 4x, you end up getting a negative 4x. So once I distribute my subtraction sign, I then can go through and combine my like terms. So this one's a little bit more complicated, but definitely still doable. So again, 3x minus 4x is a negative x, and then subtract 3 more, and we get negative x minus 3. And that's my simplified version. Go and substitute in just like I did before. All our x's are 5s. Simplify what's in the parentheses first. 4 times 5 is 20. Add 3 to that and you get 23. 3 times 5 is 15. But this time I have 15 minus 23, and I get negative 8. To see if I'm right, I'm going to substitute that 5 in on the simplified version as well. So the opposite of x, or the opposite of 5, minus 3. Well, negative 5, take away 3 more, is negative 8. So this is correct. And what you're going to do now is, I realize I have too many arrows up there, sorry about that. You are going to continue working on pages 12 and 13. Once you turn to page 13, only do that first set of boxes, which is number 3, with your table groups. Okay, so you are combining like terms, simplifying the expressions, and then you are substituting in the values that it asks you to show that you are correct. Okay? I'll be circulating throughout the period to make sure that you're on the right track, helping you out where you need to.